Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program with the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 27 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Success Through E-Commerce, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Be sure to check out our next digital bootcamp, Grow Your Business with Digital Marketing, on February 21st. We are recording today's presentation, and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted, but if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box, and we will address those at the end of the presentation. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session. Cameron Nelson is the Chief Digital Advisor for the Central Virginia SBDC. Cameron has over 18 years of experience in technology and as a senior tech consultant in Silicon Valley, helping Fortune 500 companies improve their digital marketing and e-commerce. At the same time, he founded several tech companies, including a software as a service for tree preservation and a blockchain platform for nonprofits. Cameron is accomplished in language, culture, has an MBA and MA, and believes new technology products have the ability to help shape our world for the better. Please join me in welcoming Cameron Nelson.
Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to Success Through E-Commerce, updated for 2023. The format of my boot camps going forward is slightly different. If you've been at any last year or the last 2 years, they're now an extended format, which means that they're in half an hour longer. And I'm hoping to be able to take more of your questions and answer them more in depth than I was before. So that is why we have an extra half an hour. We should have 40 or 50 minutes for your questions. So I encourage you to think of several questions. Hopefully we can get to them all today. If for some reason we're not able to get to your questions, then you're always available to reach out to help@virginiasbdc.org to get in touch with an advisor who can meet with you on a one-on-one basis. So with that, let's jump right into the presentation. So we have 3 goals for the presentation today. The first one is to learn what website and e-commerce platform works best for you. When we talk about websites and e-commerce, there's multiple platforms. So we're going to use that term several times today. And a platform is just a company that's selling their service to either build a website on or to host your e-commerce store on. And all platforms have different pros and cons, and some might work better for you than others. So we're going to look at those different options. Next, I'm going to show you how to set up your e-commerce store and list your items for sale. This is a fairly straightforward process. It's usually just as you follow step by step, but we're going to talk about some of the best practices and some of the most common pitfalls people might fall into as first-time e-commerce store owners and how to avoid those. And third, we're going to talk about how to refine your store, how to launch your store and maximize your profits as you go into your 3rd month, your 6th month, and even into your 2nd year. We're going to be looking at some of your data collection tools and ways to analyze your data to increase your performance. So first, I want to start with a website level overview. So when you talk about an e-commerce store online, there's usually 2 parts. There's your website, which is yourbusiness.com, and your e-commerce part. Now, the e-commerce can be integrated into your website, and we're going to talk about which level of website you need to get that capability. Also, your e-commerce can be offloaded to a third-party site. Those are the most popular e-commerce providers we're going to talk about here too. So just keep in mind your website and your e-commerce, they can be together, but they don't have to be. So firstly, it's very important that you do have a good website name and domain name chosen. Simple, short, 2 words is ideal. 3 words. If you're getting into 4 words in a domain name, it's getting quite long. You want it to be catchy and short enough to be memorable. and also reflect your brand and your company's name. So once you have a domain name, you have several options of building your website. The first level of a website for your business is just a basic website. This is going to have no shopping or e-commerce capabilities at all. So it's really suitable if you want to just give information about your business. If you have a service-based business like a hair parlor, nail salon, something like that, you can get away with a basic level website because you don't need people necessarily buying products on your website. A level 2 minimum website is similar to the basic website, except that it has product pages with prices and descriptions of things that you're selling, could be goods or services. And these are going to link to external sites for the e-commerce and the shopping capabilities. So in this level website, the e-commerce is not hosted on the website, but you are outsourcing that, so to speak, to a third party. A level 3 robust website integrates the shopping capabilities and the e-commerce part onto your website. So this is a really good idea if you want to increase your brand image online, increase your price point, because generally if you are selling on your own website and you have a good experience, you're able to charge a little bit more for the same goods and services, has a more premium feel. A robust level website can also integrate things like social media pages and live streams from your Facebook page. And there's more capabilities you have to improve the look of your website, which at the end of the day increases your conversion rate, or the number of people who go to your website and end up buying. And that's your goal, is to have a high conversion rate as you build a website. And level number 4 is advanced. This website has advanced shopping capabilities, such as video content or video reviews or testimonials of your products, referrals, subscription packages, and all that stuff. So out of these 4 different levels of website, if you already have a website, hopefully you have an idea of which level you're at. And if you don't yet have a business website, you should have an idea now of kind of what level you think you need to be at. Now, if you're going to upgrade, here's some considerations. To get a level 1 website, you're just starting at 0. So you can typically get this type of website for free from a place like Wix.com, Squarespace.com, or Weebly. And in addition, most popular e-commerce platforms like Shopify, Etsy, or Amazon offer a free e-commerce page, which you can customize. And this can essentially be your basic website page. A level 2 website is usually a good level if you're going to have a business and you're selling goods online. They allow for some customization, but again, you're going to link to a third-party site for the actual checking out process. And also, these types of websites aren't going to allow for anything advanced like subscriptions or user logins. Level 3 robust level website is typically an investment of between $2,000 and $9,000. And it'll allow you to target your target market and customers with more customization. So this can get into things like unique landing pages for different marketing campaigns. And this would work that if you have a Facebook ad or several Facebook ads or Google ads for different products or services, you can create different pages that somebody will go to when they click on that ad specifically for the thing that you're selling. Also, A/B testing and other advanced types of techniques. And number 4, an advanced website is the most expensive and most powerful type of website. And it's the most useful when you have something complex to sell, or if it comes in lots of variations. The costs here typically range from between $8,000 and $45,000. And you can include things like video sales, geolocation, subscription models, and user logins. So I want to explain some of the costs to operating expenses of owning your own website. First is the hosting expense. This is $20 a year to buy your domain name. This is typically the cost of a domain. Sometimes you'll see at GoDaddy or Google a domain for like 1 cent. And that's typically a promotion for the first year. And after that, it goes up to the normal price, which is around $20. It varies a little bit. Some domains are considered premium now, and they can charge cost upwards of $500 or $1,000 a year if they're very commonly used words. So you might see some that are higher than 20 a year, but for the most part, and for most small businesses, $20 a year is all you would need to pay. And this is the same no matter if you have a level 1 or level 4 type of website. The second expense here is the hosting fee. And this just indicates that there's a server somewhere in the world that's hosting your website files, and you do have to pay for that. $50 a year for website hosting at the basic level. A minimum level website, you'll expect to spend about $100 a year for hosting. Robust, $150, and advanced gets up to $250 or more. And the reason for the difference in cost is that more feature-packed websites with more content, they have to stream more data when visitors go there, and the streaming of the extra data is generally what costs you more money. The next business expense is the emails. So if you have your domain name, and some businesses don't do this, but the best practice here is to have an email at that domain. So it would be contact@yourbusiness.com or hello at something like that. It could even be your first name if you want to make it really personal. I always recommend that you're going to get an email like this for your domain as opposed to a free one like a Gmail, because it looks more professional. The cheapest emails out there are about $1 a month. So you can get it for $12 a year. There's several providers that will give you these cheap email addresses. One that comes to mind is Zoho, ZOHO.com. And it's a decent experience. It's nothing like Gmail, but if you're on a budget, that can suffice for you. If you're going to invest in a level 3 website, I could recommend you would upgrade to a Gmail powered email address, which when you log in looks just like a Google normal Gmail address. And these cost about $75 per year, but it also gives you access to all of the Google Docs and Google Calendar and lots of these built-in apps, which are very handy when managing an online business. So I think it's a good investment to spend if you have a level 3 or 4 website. The next type of business expense are your paid ads. If you're just running a basic level website, it's usually not a good idea to spend money on ads at this point. Rather, I think you'll see a bigger boost in your business growth if you upgrade your website with that money and actually upgrade to a level 2 website. If you already have a level 2 website, a minimum ad budget is around $100 a month. And typically these ads will be spent in several locations. You could spend them in Google, on Facebook's platform, or on Microsoft's. And there are other ad platforms out there, but those are definitely the biggest 3. If you're going to have a robust level website, you can expect to spend around $3,000 a year to successfully advertise that website and get lots of visitors there. And with an advanced level website, some businesses spend $10,000 a year or more on their online ads. So that's just completely up to your business plan and your marketing budget. The next cost on running a website is the development cost. So this refers to the expense of hiring a professional website developer. If you're trying to build a basic level website, I think anybody on this call can build it themselves with a few hours worth of work. It's a very simple process. However, if you'd rather not take that on and want to hire somebody, there is freelancers available. I like to look on Upwork.com. There's also Fiverr and other sources for freelance website developers. To have them build you a basic level website, you can expect to spend $300 to $1,000. A minimum level website will come in around $750 to $3,000. Robust level websites between $2,000 and $9,000. And advanced starting around $8,000 up to $45,000 or more in some situations, depending on your needs. And the last expense here is what's called SSL. SSL is a secure socket layer, which encrypts data entered onto your website. So this is particularly important if you're taking credit card information, because that does need to be encrypted by law. So if you have a level 1 or 2 website, you're not hosting your e-commerce on your website, so you don't need to worry about this. But level 3 or 4 website, you will be taking credit card information on your website. And SSL, you can expect to spend about $100 a year for that. So now that we've talked about the main differences in your website, I want to talk about the top e-commerce platforms for small businesses. And this is really the meat of this presentation. It's going to enable you to get a broad view of the landscape and to help you decide which site or sites here you think would work best to sell your products on. So the first one is Shopify. They charge between $9 and $79 per month, plus a transaction fee. You can get away with a 0% credit card transaction fee if you use their payment gateway. And I'll explain more about the transaction fees later on. Shopify is extremely easy to set up, and they offer one-click selling of your products. So once you create your website, you can upload new products very, very quickly. It is one of the easiest platforms to use by far. It just takes, anybody can do it, and that's how they built it. But Shopify doesn't really allow you to customize the checkout process very much. So if you're selling things that come in multiple sizes or colors or patterns, you might find that Shopify is not a good place for you to sell those. It's hard to post those products. Etsy is a competitor to Shopify, and they charge a 6.5 transaction fee plus a 20-cent fee per item, and then a 3.5% credit card processing fee. So their fee structure is a bit different. They're focused on handmade and vintage and craft supply items. And Etsy is also very easy to set up and post your products on. The third one is Facebook Shops. And this is the newest e-commerce platform. They launched this about 2.5 years ago. And this shouldn't be confused with Facebook Marketplace. So Facebook Marketplace is different, and it's more like a Craigslist competitor where people generally sell one-off things, antiques or used products, things like that. But Facebook Shops is like Shopify in the sense that they're helping small businesses sell their products online. So Facebook charges a 5% fee or 40 cents per item for shipments of $8 or less. So it's a flexible structure there. And, depending on what you're selling, the price point, any one of these fee structures might be the most affordable to you. Now, Facebook is geared towards small businesses and merchants, and they have 2.5 billion users and growing. So this is a lot of organic traffic. In fact, Facebook is the world's second largest search engine after Google. So people, especially in the US, looking for goods and services will be searching Facebook right after Google. And if you already have a Facebook business page, you already have followers and you're active there, then it can be a no-brainer to use Facebook Shops because it just integrates into that community you've already built. So you can easily kind of tap into that, that group of people, your target market, and monetize that with using Facebook Shops. Fourth up is Amazon. It's a site that I'm sure we're all familiar with. Amazon is the largest e-commerce platform in the world. They charge $1 per item or $40 per month, plus a fulfillment fee that varies between $2 and $6. And the variance is depending on how many services you would like Amazon to provide for you. So Amazon is the only e-commerce platform here in the top 5 that will warehouse, inventory, and ship your items for you. So this is a unique service that they're willing to offer small businesses and entrepreneurs. Now, if you want them to do more services like this, they're going to charge you more in the fulfillment fees. And they're, like I mentioned, the largest e-commerce platform, and the experience on Amazon is one of the best for shopping online. It's really good if you're trying to sell things that come in multiple sizes, like shoes or clothes or things like that. And lastly is Amazon Handmade. So this is Amazon's answer to Etsy, and it focuses on things that are also handmade and handcraft items. It doesn't have any monthly fee to sell here, but there's a 15% fee on all sales. So arguably, this is the most expensive place to be selling your products. You still get that same all Amazon experience, which I think is really great for multiple sizes and configurations of products. And one thing to keep in mind is that for this platform, you have to submit an application, and it ensures that they're getting higher quality artisans on this platform, but it can take quite a while. Last time I helped a business apply here and get on, the process took over a month. There's multiple forms to fill out. There was a video interview, a phone call interview. It's pretty serious, and they don't even accept everybody. So just keep that in mind if you want to apply to Amazon Handmade, that there will be a kind of a high bar here to get in. So now I hope that you have some idea of which site or sites would work best to sell your unique products on. And I want to take a moment to look at each of these in a little bit more detail. And so you can kind of gravitate towards, which one you think is the best fit for your business. So Shopify advertises themselves as the platform commerce is built on. And they offer a free 14-day trial. And this is nice because you can sell your products and be generating revenue and not have to pay any fees. And you can also see if you like how the interface works as you set it up, and if it's easy enough to sell your products and to shop and have your target clients shop there. Some of the categories they're helping people sell in are things like home decor, cosmetics, jewelry. It's a pretty general place where pretty much anything that's physical can be sold. They don't do really well with digital sales or videos or any kind of a digital type format. They're not really set up for that. Now, one unique thing that's come out of the world of blockchain the last year is non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. So I want to take a little segue here and explain this really interesting technology for those of you who might have heard of it or might not have, because this is a unique way for businesses who are interested in using the blockchain to be able to potentially tap into a new market. So these NFTs are digital tokens that they can't be replaced or replicated, and they are issued on a blockchain. Like Ethereum is the biggest blockchain. And these tokens can represent anything that's digital. So it could be artwork or stickers, it could be animated videos, music, even tweets. So Shopify is the only major e-commerce platform that actually helps you as a business owner create an NFT of your digital unique thing, whether it's a collectible or something else, and to sell it. So I think it's pretty cool. If you're at all interested in learning more, I encourage you to check out this link here, shopify.com/NFT. And yeah, like I said, this is a new and up and coming technology. If you're selling something digital, I think it's well worth looking into. I think it's in a lot of ways, this could be the future of artists and people making unique artwork and digital assets, how they're going to sell it. So the second site here is Etsy. Etsy really tries to focus on handmade and handcraft items and decor items. Some of the categories they have are Halloween or seasonal gifts. They have handmade leather work, woodwork, pottery, and baskets and weaving and things like that. So if you're selling something that has to do in one of these categories, Etsy is a good place because people come to Etsy specifically looking for these types of handmade and collectible type items. So it could be a good place for you to sell. Next is Facebook Shops. Now, because Facebook owns Instagram as well, when you sell on Facebook Shops, you're also cross-selling on both platforms by default. So it can be a nice way to tap into the market and people using Instagram as well as people using Facebook. Facebook Shops is pretty advanced as far as how it goes about helping you sell. For example, in the picture on the right of the shirts on the rack, you can specify parts of your product photos that you want to have people look at in more detail because they have something of interest, and people can kind of zoom into those parts. So it makes it a fun experience for shopping. And that's what Facebook tries to focus on. They're trying to make it a unique and modern experience for shopping. And if you already like Facebook, then Facebook Shops can be a natural fit. However, if you don't have a Facebook page, if you're not active on Facebook, or you don't like their policies around privacy and security, then you might want to steer clear of this because you will be obliged to give Facebook all kind of access to your data, and they will do with that what they will. They don't really explain very well. So some people have concerns about that, and that's completely understandable. If that's the case, then I would look elsewhere than Facebook Shops. So Amazon is really the gold standard for e-commerce. They've done it very well over the last 10 years. They're the #1 e-commerce platform in the world. And they offer several advantages. One, they offer a good checkout experience if you're selling in multiple sizes or configurations. They will also warehouse and ship your items and even handle your returns for you. So it takes a lot of the load off a small business owner. However, I think the biggest downside is one that I've personally experienced working with small businesses in Virginia, which is counterfeits and copyright infringement of products. So, for example, I was working with a handmade artisan pasta maker in Central Virginia who was doing very well about a year ago on Amazon, selling around $100,000 a month in sales on Amazon. And this went on for several months, and they were growing very rapidly until they stumbled across a copycat product that wasn't their product, but it was using their logo, their box. It looked identical, but it was selling slightly cheaper. And they noticed that this product was taking a lot of their sales. And so, what do? They contacted Amazon. Amazon was slow to respond, was not helpful, and at the end of the day, would do nothing against this imposter. So the legitimate company lost a lot of sales and ended up moving off of Amazon, but it was a very painful and a costly experience for them. So that is a risk on Amazon. That fraud is rampant, I think we can say, and Amazon doesn't do much about it. If you're small, it's not going to be an issue. But if you start to get bigger in your sales, it's definitely possible that this would happen. So if you want to start on Amazon, that's fine, but you might want to have a contingency plan. Whereas if something starts to happen like this, then you will be able to launch your own website with e-commerce right away, or just have some backup plan, because you wouldn't want to be caught here losing all your revenue with having no plan in place. But other than that, I think Amazon's a good choice. And Amazon Handmade here, as a subset of Amazon, also gives you the great Amazon experience and those features that merchants really like. You can see here that Amazon Handmade focuses on some items like handmade soaps or leather work and jewelry and accessories and things like that. So next, we're going to talk about setting up your e-commerce store. And no matter which of these platforms you want to use, the process is going to be very similar. So first, you're going to find a product to sell, and then you're going to customize your e-commerce template, and then you're going to add your products. So the first part is finding a product to sell. A lot of small businesses that I talk to, they're not quite sure what products they should focus on, which ones are going to sell the best. And I recommend that they go in with not trying to list all the products they have for sale, which some businesses have dozens or hundreds or even in the thousands, which is definitely too many for a general e-commerce site. I think the best practice is to list between 10 and 20 products in your first month, just to give you a jumping off point, and so you have a basis for start collecting some data about what's selling well and what's not. So ways to find a product that you want to sell is you should ask yourself, does it solve a customer's pain point? And the bigger the pain, the better it's going to sell. Does it appeal to enthusiasts or hobbyist crowds? And if so, then you have logical marketplaces like Amazon Handmade or Etsy to sell those on. Does it go with your personal passions and build on your own professional experiences? Because you need to use anything you have as an advantage to give you a leg up against your competitors online. Does it capitalize on trends early? And one way to find trends is, of course, to read and do a lot of research, but you can also read reviews of products online. And the negative comments about reviews can give you a lot of good insights into how this product could be improved. And so it might give you an idea of a product you want to sell. Litmus test before you launch means if you have products in several categories, it's best not to, say, launch 100% of products in category A, but rather launch a few products in categories A, B, and C. And that way you'll be able to test different product categories to kind of see what's working best for you online. And then you can exploit the opportunities in the next several months as you see them emerge. You can always browse what's trending on online marketplaces. We've probably all seen when you go to Amazon, they'll often say that this product is the #1 seller in, home decor or automotive or whatever the category is. And Amazon updates those #1 sellers every day. So it can give you a good idea of what's selling well and what's not. And there's other websites that'll also help you research. And one is called Camel, 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 just like the animal 3 times. And it's camelcamelcamel.com. And this unique website analyzes Amazon sales data to show you lots of trending topics and prices on different types of products. So it can give you some ideas there. Next is you should always research products with higher profit margins. So if you're coming from selling in a brick and mortar store and to selling online, one of the main differences is that your products really become more of a commodity, because people aren't able to see them or touch them and interact with them in the same way as they would in a store. So you're going to usually have to cut your prices to be competitive online. So you need to start with products that offer a higher profit margin right off the bat. So you're not left with trying to sell products that you just can't sell without losing money. And lastly, always be on the lookout for new opportunities and products to sell, because certainly every month, every quarter, every year, there's new opportunities and people, making a lot of money selling online. So it's just a matter of being on the lookout and finding those early. The next step is to customize your e-commerce template. So all of the e-commerce platforms we looked at will offer you a range of starting templates, which can give your online page kind of a unique look and feel. And when you're looking through the designs, you should ask yourself a few questions to find the one that'll work best for you. You should ask, what features do you want your store to have? And what style of homepage do you want? Do you have video content? Should that be front and center? Do you have reviews and testimonials? Do you want that to be the first thing people see? So think about how you want your homepage to look. And also, how do you want your customers to move around your store? Do you want them to have different categories of products, or are all products just listed on one product page? Think about how the navigation will work. And once you've chosen a template, customizing it is going to be very easy. You can change most things on the page, including your text size and your fonts, your colors, of course, all the product images and the positioning. You can change features to some extent. If you want a video in a section, you can sometimes add that. It depends on the e-commerce platform and the page you picked. And you can embed your social media links. So talking about social media here for a minute, if you're active on any social media pages, it's always a good idea to put your links there on your e-commerce store, as well as your website, yourbusiness.com. The reason is because customers or first-time visitors to your page might not necessarily buy a product right away. They might take some time to research your company or look at competitors. So by putting your social media links right there, they can click on your Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn or TikTok even, and see what you've been posting on those, see what your followers are like, and to basically decide if they want to buy your products or not. So the next thing you're going to do is add your products. And the main things to add your product are going to be the name, the price, the category, and the weight for physical products, and any file for electronic or downloadable products. And there's three key secrets for uploading great products, which are your product descriptions, your images, and the product categories. So first, let's talk about the product descriptions. The descriptions, of course, they need to be convincing, but they should avoid jargon or abbreviations. You can't assume that your target market understands an abbreviation, which you might think is quite common in your industry. So you should always spell those out. You should avoid using any cliches or long sentences. And some research done off of best-selling items on Amazon a couple of years ago revealed a trend in their product descriptions. It was the best-selling items followed a pattern of around 3 to 5 bullet points, followed by 2 or 3 sentences of text. And that's it for the description. Because not many people are going to read multiple lengthy paragraphs of a description of a product. Yet, poorly set up e-commerce sites, we see this quite frequently, and it does really negatively impact their conversion rate. So what you're trying to do is provide those most valuable pieces of information up front, not lose people's attention, and encourage them to make that buying decision. And another way to do this is with the use of images, which we'll be talking about in a moment. So images are really important for selling your product online. Like I said, your products online become kind of commoditized where, let's say you're selling hairbrushes, your hairbrush next to another hairbrush next to another one, it's really hard for a customer to tell the difference in the quality or your unique selling points. So one of the best ways to actually bring those across is with your product images. So the picture on the left here is a photography light box. This is a simple setup that you can buy pre-made on Amazon for $30 or $40. But what it gives you is a neutral white background and lights that'll give you a nice lighting, which is even. It reduces dark shadows, and it puts your product against a non-distracting background. So these are very important aspects of taking your own product pictures. And here's a few other tips. You always want to use high quality images, which means don't use an image that is out of focus or pixelated because it's not high enough quality. Make sure each image is the same size and preferably the same dimensions. And this is going to make your either website or your e-commerce store look more professional. You can use a tool like Photoshop, or if you just search for an online image resizing tool, you can do it there as well. And this will help you resize your images for free. You can definitely take your own photos, and most smartphones released within the last couple of years will take pretty good photos for this purpose. The most important aspect is to have a nice photography light box to put your products in. And then if you have a simple tripod or stand for your phone, you can keep it in a consistent position and with a consistent angle and take the photos of your products. You should add product variation images. So if you have multiple sizes or configurations, make sure that you have an image of every variation so a customer can see them all. And also provide a 360-degree view option. And so some e-commerce sites or your own website can have this feature where they can view and spin around a product and view it from all the angles. So if this is an option for you, I encourage you to use it. Also, some sites like the Facebook Shops will offer you a digital zoom option, which is you can, if you have a high resolution image, customers can zoom in on certain parts that they want to see more detail on. And for resolution, let's talk a moment about what good resolutions are, because I get asked this quite a bit. When we talk about an image resolution, they're in pixels. And generally a smartphone picture will be somewhere around 2000 by 3000 pixels, which is a very large file size, and it's too much for most e-commerce sites and websites. For that, you probably only need around 1000 by 1000 pixels. If you want to add a zoom option and let people really zoom into all the detail, then yeah, it's probably a good idea to leave it around the original 2000 by 3000 pixel range. But for any other use cases, 1000 by 1000 is enough. And by making it a smaller image, it'll load faster, which makes it a more pleasant experience on your website. And as data has shown, will increase your conversion rate. And so if you have these large images and you want to resize them, there's multiple ways you can do that. There's free online image compression tools, and you could just search for that. It'll reduce the file size without really affecting the quality too much. So because I think product images are really important, I wanted to show some examples of good product images here so you get a sense of where the industry is trending with this. The first one was a dimension image. And this example here looks like there's an Alexa inside of a cat holder, and the dimension image is showing the scale. So that's 9 inches long and the diameter. So this can be useful if you're trying to show the scale of your product. The next one is the comparison chart. And you'll see this a lot on Amazon, especially, where you're going to highlight the main product differentiators between your product and your competitors. Essentially where you do better. And you're going to have some sort of a comparison chart like this to encourage your target buyers to select your product. And the next one is a 3D image and an infograph. So this combines kind of two different techniques. A 3D image is useful for showing anything that is inside or can't be seen with a naked eye. And the infograph section, is generally an icon with a short description, just showing these key highlights and differentiators of your product. 3 types of images that are very useful and popular are a creation process image. So people would like to see how the process works if you're creating something by hand. So it's a good idea to show some details like this. The middle was a scale shot, and this is if you're trying to show the relative size of, in this case, a piece of jewelry like the ring against somebody's hand. So this can be useful when trying to help somebody determine, is this product a good fit for me? And the last one is a group shot. So in this case, it's bottles of some sort of a lotion, probably. These products are similar and related, but by doing a group shot, you actually alleviate the need of having 4 different images where, to be honest, each image is going to look very similar. So there's probably not really any need to have an image of one pink bottle versus the next, even if what's in them is slightly different. Rather, you could do a group shot just to show, okay, this is how the products look in a group. And these are trending ways of taking successful photos that successful e-commerce merchants have been using. Next, you're going to launch your store and maximize your profits. So I'm going to talk about how to set up your payment methods, how to preview, test, and publish your online store, and what you should do in a follow-up a few weeks after your store launches. So the first thing is to set up your payment method. This is how you get paid in your bank account from those credit card transactions that happen online. Generally, you're going to use a payment processor, which will charge between 1% and 10 cents per transaction to 3% and 30 cents per transaction. The three most popular ways to accept the payments are a merchant account and payment gateway. So in this scenario, you partner with the bank. Let's just say it was Chase. They accept payments for you and channel the money to your bank account. So they actually have the checkout. They host the checkout process themselves. The second option is a payment gateway package. This is a piece of software which connects your store shopping cart with the credit card processing network. A popular example of this for WordPress websites is called WooCommerce, which is probably the #1 payment gateway in the world. It's certainly a very popular one. And so that's a package that you can use. And third is simplified credit card payment processing. In this scenario, you use a service that integrates your store's checkout, like Shopify's payment gateway. And so your shoppers don't have to leave your site to complete a purchase. So depending on how your store is set up and your specific bank and different options, any one of these three can be the most cost-effective way for you to accept credit card payments. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew of your different options. And lastly, if you use Shopify's payment processor, then you don't pay any transaction fees because they built their own kind of payment processor. So that can be a good option if you're using Shopify. Next, you want to preview, test, and launch your online store. And before launching, you really need to test your store to make sure it's working and it's going to satisfy your customers' needs. It's quite frequent to see something, a recently launched website or e-commerce store, and see some typos and stuff. So you want to make sure that you find those before your customers do. And there's a few key things to check. The first one is, does your checkout process work? So you can test this yourself. It's a good idea to place an order for a product. Make sure your notifications come in, like if they're set for email notifications. Make sure that your refund process works. And so you can simply just refund yourself the cost of this test. Next, you want to make sure all of your store's buttons work. So make sure any clickable button is working. Sometimes you might have a button but forgot to set up its destination page. So make sure you click all your links. And also check all your content. So make sure there are no typos in the text. Make sure all the images look clear and crisp, that they're not pixelated. Make sure they're the correct images. And it's ideal to check it on multiple types of operating systems. So if you have access to a PC and a Mac, an iPhone and an Android phone, if you can check it on all the 4 of these types of devices, this is going to be the best, because some devices will show oddities or errors that the others don't. So if you just check it on one, you're not really getting a good representation of your target customers' devices. And I recommend that after 4 or 6 weeks after launching your store, that you're going to have a follow-up meeting with a business advisor, like somebody at the SBDC, who can talk with you about your goals and your successes and also opportunities. So you can discuss things like, did you meet your sales and revenues goals for the first month? What feedback did you receive from your customers online, either via email, customer reviews on a website? What products sold the best and the worst? What new ideas do you have for products to sell online? What have you learned from your competitors? And what are you going to try differently in month 2+? Now, I know it's not an easy thing to launch your first e-commerce store. So I highly encourage you to talk to an expert, get some free advice through the SBDC, because it can really help answer your questions and alleviate some of your concerns. So with that, I thank you for your participation. I hope this was useful. I also encourage you to type any questions in the Q&A box, or I believe the chat box, either one perhaps, and we'll get to as many as we can in the next 30 or 40 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, Cameron, we have had questions popping in throughout your session here, and you may have answered some of them, but I'm going to go ahead and read through them because it's probably not a bad idea to reiterate if you have. So we're going to start with, what about WooCommerce? How does it compare with the top e-commerce platforms?
That's a great question. So I did mention WooCommerce. WooCommerce is only available for websites built on WordPress. And we didn't talk much about website building platforms, but WordPress is a good option if you're trying to build a business website. It's the world's largest website building platform. So WooCommerce is a very good e-commerce plugin for the WordPress platform. And I say it's very good in the sense that it has, some of the lowest fees. We mentioned 1% to 3% credit card processing fee. WooCommerce is right in there. I think they're around a 2%. They allow you to upload your product images, descriptions, the price, all these details, and actually handle all the credit card processing. So they are your e-commerce solution for your WordPress website. And I think, personally speaking, I've worked with dozens of businesses using this, and it's been very successful overall.
Okay, TikTok is more popular than Facebook now. Do they have an e-commerce platform the way Facebook does?
All right, great. I'm glad you brought up TikTok. I've been giving presentations like this for almost 2 years, and TikTok 2 years ago wasn't even on the radar, as far as social media marketing and connecting with customers. But now it is much more important. TikTok has much fewer users than Facebook, but for certain demographics, especially early teens is their biggest demographic. And if that's your target market, then TikTok can be a very useful place to advertise your product. They're not like Facebook. They don't really have an ad platform like Facebook. Facebook has a very large and well-established ad platform that runs on Facebook and Instagram. I haven't actually used TikTok's. I don't have experience with TikTok ads recently at all, so I'm not really sure currently what they offer in terms of ads. But they do have their own kind of version of that, but it's not going to go beyond TikTok. So one useful thing to mention would be, when we talk about ad platforms, the largest is Google, and Google will put your ads both in Google search results, in YouTube results, and across many of their platforms, Google Maps, and all these different services and apps they use. And Facebook is similar, but TikTok is kind of separate, where they will let you run an ad just on TikTok. But like I said, I haven't had recent experience running TikTok ads, so I'm not really an expert on that currently.
Okay. Are there any considerations between these platforms when shipping overseas?
Okay, good question. All these platforms are going to let you put in your shipping preferences. So if you prefer to ship with UPS, FedEx, and DHL, you can specify those, and you can specify how much the customer is going to pay for shipping. So for example, if DHL has a shipping calculator, so if you're shipping from California to China, DHL will tell you, give us the dimensions, the weight, and the destination and origin kind of zip codes, and we'll calculate the shipping. So this can be done automatically for you through all these e-commerce providers. They will help you calculate shipping because your other option is to use kind of a blanket rate shipping, like say $100 shipping international, which might or might not cover the shipping depending on the dimensions and the weight of the box. So WooCommerce, for example, I know does allow you to tap into FedEx, to UPS, to DHL's, their servers, and you transmit the data of your product, and you'll get a real-time result back of the shipping cost. So that can automatically be put into the checkout price when somebody buys the product on your website. So I think that's the most simple solution. I'm not 100% sure if places like Shopify or Etsy offer that. I'd be surprised if they don't. So most likely they do. But Amazon also certainly does allow for the international shipping rate calculations to happen in real time.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts about using WordPress and adding an e-commerce integration?
It's great. So this is kind of similar to what we were just talking about with WooCommerce. If you build a website on using WordPress as your platform, I think it's a good option. You can get a lot of good starting templates and get a good website up and running pretty quickly. And then WooCommerce as your e-commerce kind of plugin will enable any WordPress website to be able to accept payments and to have a checkout page and a shopping cart page. WooCommerce handles all those aspects for you. So I mean, I think it's a great solution. It can be a bit time consuming and or overwhelming to set up for the first time. That's the feedback I've gotten from several small businesses in the last year. Another option to consider is Shopify. So Shopify also will give you a website. It can even be, yourbusiness.com. Shopify handles all of the checkout and credit card processing, but there's far less integration and manual work you need to do as the business owner to get set up on Shopify, because I don't know, Shopify, they just streamlined that process quite a bit. So I would say if you're more technically inclined and you have more time, then WordPress and WooCommerce is great. It's a very flexible solution and can really grow with your business over time, probably better than Shopify. But if you're looking for something that's, 50% or less of the effort to get set up, then Shopify is going to be a great option for you to use as well.
Okay, so that was a good segue into this. For those leveraging WordPress, how do you get to Shopify? Is it a plugin?
So WordPress and Shopify, in a sense, they're kind of competitors because Shopify will allow you to build a website on their platform, as will WordPress. And Shopify wants to enable you to sell on your website, as does WordPress using the WooCommerce plugin. So there's not really a Shopify plugin for WordPress because they're kind of competitors. But one way that's common to use the two together is if you built a website in WordPress, but you'd really prefer to sell your products on Shopify for whatever reason, you have the ability to set up your products for sale on Shopify. And then on your website, like if you have a level 2 website, you would have your website with some product pages, but you would be offloading the sales to a third party like Shopify. So they could view the description of the products on your website, but when they click the buy now button, it goes to Shopify, and it's clearly taking them off your website to Shopify to complete the purchase. But that's the simplest way to kind of use both of those platforms together. And a lot of people do, a lot of people do that very successfully. And whether or not it's Shopify that they sell the products on, or Amazon or eBay or Etsy, the process is similar, where that checkout button will just take them to that third-party site.
Can you talk about Square and Square Up?
So Square is a payment processor similar to Stripe. And I know they have kind of similar, sometimes confusing names, but Square and Stripe, they're two very large payment processors for online. I haven't actually heard of Square Up, so that's something new to me, and I'll look that up after this meeting. But Square and Stripe are both really solid options. You can use either one of those to handle your payment processing. So those companies compete with PayPal primarily. We haven't talked about PayPal yet, but PayPal, Square, and Stripe are all credit card processors that primarily deal online. And a lot of businesses use Square or Stripe, and you can integrate those payment processors on your website. So if you're using, going back to the Shopify example, if you're using Shopify's payment processor that's built in, then that's it. That's all you use. You don't use Square or Stripe or PayPal because you're using Shopify's. But if you're going with a WordPress website and WooCommerce, WooCommerce is going to say, okay, we can use Square or Stripe or PayPal. So give us your account with one of those, and we're going to use that service. So WooCommerce in and of itself is not a Square, Stripe, or PayPal. They actually tap into one of those three to help them process credit card transactions. So hopefully that explains it. If you still have any questions or confusion about how those systems work together, please let me know.
And this one I think you answered, but I'm going to go. I didn't want to leave anybody out. We have 30 minutes, so I'm going to read this one too. Do you have any experience with WooCommerce and add-on for CRMs such as WordPress? Would you recommend going that route?
Yeah, so to answer the first part, yes, got quite a bit of experience with WooCommerce, and I think it's a pretty good solution. So CRM systems, customer relationship management system, it's basically a way to track who has interacted with your business, whether it's buying a product or subscribing to a newsletter, and helping you sort them and filter them and communicate with them. So WooCommerce does do that. WooCommerce does keep a list of all the customers you've had. It knows a lot about them, right? It knows their names, their emails, their shipping addresses, the product they bought. If they bought multiple products, it'll also tell you the value of that customer and all the products they bought, so how much money that customer's generated for you. So that's a bit of a basic CRM system right there, just given to you by WordPress, and by virtue of it just having that data. However, the biggest CRM systems offer you a lot more. They offer you the ability to start email campaigns to that group, to write those emails, to send them out through there. They allow you the ability to retarget people who didn't open an email with a separate email that you write specifically for that group. So WooCommerce doesn't get into that depth of a CRM system. So your question might be more along the lines of, well, you have data in WooCommerce, and now you want to use a more robust CRM system. How do those sync together? And it's a great question. A lot of CRM systems offer the ability to import data. So WooCommerce, you could export an Excel file and import that into your CRM system, but that's not a great solution because it's not automatic. So if you have 10 new sales on the next day and you didn't capture that last time you downloaded the data, then your CRM system also won't have the new customer data. So then you're probably talking about some sort of an integration where the WooCommerce data is automatically sent to a CRM, and it can get a bit complicated. The major CRMs out there like Salesforce.com. Also, I mentioned Zoho before. Zoho, in addition to providing these cheap email addresses, is a pretty cost-affordable CRM system. You just have to look into what integrations they have available with WooCommerce. I imagine they do have some level of integration to kind of help you expedite this process. But yeah, going back to the beginning, I think WooCommerce is a basic CRM, but it's not what a business needs long-term.
Okay. Is there less a chance or less of a risk of fraud and copycats on Amazon Handmade since it is unique products?
Yes, that is true. That's a good question. And also the fact that they have the artisan application process and the interview process, it does eliminate people who aren't intentional in bringing their own unique products to Amazon Handmade. If they actually just want to copycat something, they're trying to weed out those types of sellers. So yes, in general, that's how the system's supposed to work. Is it effective every time? I'm sure it's not, but overall, it's much better than the base Amazon platform for copyrights.
What SEO websites can you use to learn how to use SEO for a website?
So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And that's basically the art of writing the text on your website to make it more likely to come up in a search result on Google, say. So if your website is selling cat food and dog food, you want the words on your website to be a close match with the search term somebody's typing into Google. So that's what SEO is, overall. There's a lot of fine tuning you can do with SEO, and you can really, spend a lot of time getting, the last 5% out of your SEO. But I think getting to the base, getting 80% of your SEO done right away just comes with writing a well thought out homepage, well thought out product pages, meaning you want to make sure you use proper grammar, proper English. You don't want to use a bunch of exclamation points and caps. All that stuff decreases your SEO score. So just by writing a thoughtful website content is going to get you 80% of the way there. There are tools which you can use to fine tune your approach to SEO. Generally, what the tools will do is if you say, okay, I'm selling cat and dog food, so I know people are searching Google for organic cat food, best price or something. You have some idea of the search term. One of the tools you'll put that in and it will go out and give you related search terms that they have found. And so this can give you new ideas and say, oh, I hadn't thought about using these words. on my website. And that'll help your website come up more frequently with searches. So there's several tools. One is the Google keyword search tool, which is very popular. And there's a plethora of other tools that do very similar things. They give you the related keyword searches. So no others come to mind right now, but if you were just to search for SEO keyword tool, you'll find some free options out there. And it'll, again, the main thing they're giving you is the related search terms to your original ideas. And this is going to help you put those words on your website. And by doing that, you will increase your SEO.
Could you explain about Shopify waiving transaction fees?
Yes, well, it's a bit of a clever marketing thing on Shopify's part, but all the other e-commerce platforms, they say, like, here's our monthly fee, here's our percentage of the sales fee we're going to take, and then here's our credit card processing fee. So Shopify says very loudly, we will charge you 0% credit card processing fee. That's great, but it just means that they're actually making their money somewhere else, either in the monthly fees they charge you or in the percentage of your sales. So they're able to do that because they're very big and they built essentially their own credit card processing network that interacts right with MasterCard, Visa, and Discover. So they're like a Square, a Stripe, or a PayPal in that sense. But you're not necessarily going to save money overall, because at the end of the day, Shopify needs to make revenue too. So they are going to charge you in other ways still to use Shopify and to sell there.
How much traffic to our website should we expect with a $100 monthly advertising budget compared to a $1,000 budget?
That's a great question. And, there's some generalities I can give you, but I will also say, to get the most accurate information on that, go to ads.google.com. And that's going to guide you through making a Google Ads account. You don't need to spend any money, but you do need to sign up. And what they're going to do is you're going to give them kind of your industry that you're in and what your product is, and then your estimated monthly budget. And they're going to tell you right there, based on their real-time data, how many visitors they anticipate you getting for that budget. So from what I've seen, $100 a month is pretty much a bare minimum marketing budget. They're probably going to say you'll get between 20 and 30 website visitors a day. So over the course of a month, less than 1,000 roughly. And then if you spend, 10 times that per month, you go up to $1,000 monthly budget. The number of visitors is going to scale up proportionally. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind when you look at the effectiveness of your ad campaign. The first one is, do you write an ad that's interesting and people click on it? Let's again say you're selling cat and dog food. If your description in your ad, you have a little spot for a title and then a bigger spot for the body of your ad, the text. If the words you use are really, really captivating, you might see 10% of the people who had that ad come up on their screen clicked on it and went to your website. However, if you write a really bad ad, that might be down to 1%. So Google will estimate how many clicks you'll get on your ad and how many website visitors, but at the end of the day, it's just an estimation. It's really up to you to write some good ad text. And if you're not sure how to do that, then I think it's a good resource to talk to some people at the SBDC who are familiar with marketing campaigns to help you write that ad text, because Google will happily display your ad even if you wrote it poorly and it doesn't get many clicks, and that doesn't help your business very much. But another thing to keep in mind is with the Google method, you only pay them when somebody clicks on your ad. So let's say your ad was shown to 10,000 people in a day, but only 5 people clicked on it. Maybe the ad was written very poorly. You only pay for those 5 people who clicked. But also that's not helping your business much by getting more website traffic. So you do want to write good ads, and you do pay every time somebody clicks on the ad. Generally, you pay, it depends on the industry, but between 30 cents and 60 cents per click on Google. And Facebook has a similar method of evaluating the clicks and the amount of money you spend. Facebook's generally a little bit lower, 20 to 40 cents per click.
What are the legalities of having an e-commerce business? Do I need to register the business?
Okay. I'm happy to start answering this, but I'll also say I'm not a legal advisor. And so talking about legal things, I can just give you some general tips. And then I highly encourage you to reach out to an attorney or a lawyer who can guide you in setting up a business. having a registered business, and normally when we say this, we're talking about an LLC, which stands for a limited liability company. Having an LLC protects you as the individual from liability were you to get sued. So let's go back to the cat and dog food example. Hopefully this isn't getting like a boring example. Let's say you make cat and dog food, and let's say somebody bought it and their dog ate it and the next day was dead. Okay. Now, if you're selling this as yourself, you don't have a LLC, that person could definitely come and say, look, I'm going to sue you because your food killed my dog. Now, whether or not it was the fault of your product or not, I mean, that would probably be decided in court, but that's a very costly legal expense. And if you lost, then your personal property and your personal finances and everything you personally own is liable, and that person could take it, right, as compensation. However, if you have an LLC, only the assets of the company can be taken if you were to be sued. So the liability, you are protected from that. So if your cat and dog food company has $5,000 worth of machines, that's all the assets it owns. That's the most you would be liable to lose if you were to be sued. There's other advantages of having an LLC, of course. I think this is the main one as far as protection for you personally, and it's well worth it. I mean, anybody at the SBDC or any business advisor would recommend you protect yourself. Setting up an LLC is quite inexpensive. It's around $100, and then a $50 a year renewal fee through the state of Virginia, and you can do it all online. So there's really no reason not to have an LLC. It's a business expense, but just one that you should plan on investing in.
Square is now working with Facebook, Google Shopping, and Instagram, but is that on advertising your Square e-commerce site? Does that make sense?
Okay, well, Square works with Google, Google Store and Facebook Shops, in the sense that they'll handle credit card processing. If you're a merchant selling on Facebook and you say, I'd like Square to handle credit card processing, Facebook will allow you to do that. But I don't believe, at least I've never heard, that there's any kind of advertising or cross advertising going on. Square, as well as Stripe and PayPal, they're not an advertising network at all. They're purely a payment processing network. So unless something's radically changed since last time I looked, and I don't think it has, they're completely separate from the ad networks. So I think to answer your question, no, there shouldn't be any sharing of ad information between like Google, Facebook, and Square.
If I have a website on Square, can I use my Square account for transactions?
Yes. So I'm glad you asked. Square is majority is a payment processor, but they've recently enabled people to build a simple website on Square. So now they're competing with Shopify. They're both a website hosting platform and a payment processor. And I'm sure Square did this because they said Shopify is making a ton of money helping host the website and process the payments. So if you choose to build a website on Square, first off, just know it's the newest website building platform of this type. And so it's not really been tested very well. I personally haven't used it or known of businesses who have used it. They usually use Shopify if they're going for this simple setup. But your question was, can you use Square as the payment processor if you built the website on Square? And the answer is definitely yes, that is their business model. Just like Shopify, they want you to build a website on Shopify and use Shopify for the payment processing. But yeah, I'm curious to know what your experience is like with Square, because it's so new, not many people I've talked to have used it yet.
Okay, back to the advertising. If you had $500 a month, how would you divvy it up for online ads? Or if you had 1,000, how would you divvy it up?
That's a good question. And yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I have a separate boot camp that I'll probably be giving in an upcoming month about digital marketing. But I do cover this question there. But to give you a summary of it, generally speaking, the best bang for your buck is going to be the Google ad network and the Facebook ad network. And most small businesses, if they're starting out, will take their budget, let's say it's $1,000 a month, and they'll divide it equally between the two. So they'll say spend $500 on Google in a month and $500 on Facebook. Now, out of that $500, you can have multiple ads running with the total to not exceed $500 in the month. So this is a really good strategy. It's also what's called A/B testing, where let's say you create two ads that are very similar, but there's a small difference between them. Maybe the use of one word, or one has an exclamation point or one has a period, a small difference. And over the course of the month, you see which one gets clicked on the most. So that would be a form of A/B testing an ad. You can do that on Facebook or on Google. And again, you're not spending more on that platform in the month. You're just simply taking the 500 and dividing it amongst two. You could do this. You could make 3 or 4 or 5 ads. And so there's a lot of different strategies to get into. But to answer your basic question, yes, I would plan on dividing it equally between those two platforms. And keep in mind, Google owns YouTube, and YouTube is becoming increasingly popular for ads if you have a video. So when you set up a Google ad, they'll give you an option. It's just a checkbox that says, do you want this to be displayed on YouTube as well? So if it's appropriate, if it's a video and you want it to go on YouTube, you can check the box. So now you're getting both. And Facebook does that with Instagram. Facebook will say, look, we'll put your ad on Instagram. If you'd like, just check this box. And so both of them have a large reach outside of just the base Facebook or Google website. So that's why it's a good idea to spread your money between the two. And then after a couple of months, you can look at your data and say, look, we spent, $500 in Facebook this month and it generated $3,000 of revenue. But what we spent in Google was the same, but it only generated $1,000 of revenue, or whatever it happens to be. Because for every business and product and industry, what's most effective is going to be different. So there's no one clear winner for every single situation. So it's important for you to be looking at your data and kind of get a sense of which platform is working the best. And then you might decide after a few months just to put 100% towards Facebook, because that's what's giving you the biggest return on your investment.
Okay, looks like we have about 18 minutes left and about 15 questions just to kind of give you a feel for what we have here. Okay, so is GoDaddy a good platform for an e-commerce store?
So GoDaddy is generally a place to go and buy domains and host your website there. GoDaddy's capabilities as far as building an e-commerce website are new. And from what I've heard, talking to probably half a dozen small businesses that have used GoDaddy as a platform to build a website on, it's been a bad experience. And I say bad, I'm using their words because GoDaddy, it's not their primary service. It's not primarily to help you build an e-commerce website. It's kind of been tacked on, and it's not as smooth as Shopify. It's not as robust. And so what I've heard in the last 6 months, and my recommendations have been just to avoid the GoDaddy website building experience. And so that's what I would say to you. I think a much better option is Shopify, which gives you the same simple way to build a website and to monetize the website as GoDaddy. But they just have a better experience, and that's their primary business model, is doing that.
Let's see. I want to know your thoughts about drop shipping business for a beginner entrepreneur. Is it profitable or is it overhyped?
So drop shipping means that you will kind of act as a middleman. You will receive an order for something. Let's say it's a piece of workout equipment, but you'll order it directly from the manufacturer and send it to the customer. It'll never pass through your hands. So you're asking, is it a good business model or is it overhyped? I mean, I don't know which of those is correct, but it depends on what you're trying to do with it for sure. If you have a unique niche and an innovative way that you're reaching customers, it can work very well. There's a ton of competition in it. There's a ton of people who say, I'd love to have a business where I receive an order online, I place an order over there, I never have to touch the product, and I make money. So there's a lot of people trying to do that. So with anything common, I think it's just very competitive, and it might be a really high barrier to entry. But if you have a cool, unique niche, then it could work for you. So yeah, that's kind of all the advice I can give without knowing specifically kind of what you're working on.
When would you recommend someone think about moving from something like Etsy to Shopify?
Well, I don't know if anyone would ever logically need to move from one to the other. I mean, both are robust e-commerce platforms. They both serve kind of a different need. Shopify is very general, whereas Etsy is very arts and crafts focused. So I wouldn't say you ever need to move from one to the other in general terms. Also, it doesn't hurt to have sell on both. You could easily have your products for sale on Shopify and Etsy. I know businesses who do this. You might see, 80% of your sales come from Shopify and 20% from Etsy, or you might find Etsy is better than Shopify. It all depends on how much time you have to manage your products and upload the images and the text. If you have the time, it doesn't hurt to do it on both platforms at once. And I think if you're trying to learn which one is better for you, I would recommend doing that for maybe 6 months. And after the end of 6 months, you should have a really clear idea of which one just makes the most sense, like where are you getting the most sales from.
Let's see. GoDaddy has a free website builder when you purchase a domain. There's 2 questions here. Do you know if this includes listings or if you need to connect your Shopify, Square, etc.? The other question is, let's see, GoDaddy comes with free protection, but sells additional protection. Is that necessary?
Yeah. So I'm not a real expert on the GoDaddy website platform. I just know that it's new and the people I've talked to haven't liked it much. So I don't know the answer to your first question. But the second question I have encountered more recently, which is the protection. What they're trying to upsell you on is way overblown. I was talking with a small business who paid like the $100 to get this enhanced protection, and it was really just a joke. It was so much overkill for what they were trying to do. It was completely unnecessary. Like I said, the main protection that you need being an e-commerce merchant is the SSL, the secure socket layer. Any of these platforms we've talked about, they provide that. And if you build your own website on WordPress and you use WooCommerce, then WooCommerce provides SSL. That's really the only level of security you need to worry about. I would definitely not recommend paying a lot of money for GoDaddy's enhanced security.
I know earlier there was a question about Square and Square Up. I think this might be a follow-up. Square and Square Up are the same, I think, and offer an online store option. Is this something that would be integrated into WooCommerce?
Okay, so the Square, like I mentioned, they have just recently launched a way to build your website. So they're similar to Shopify. They will not integrate. If you build a website on Square, then WooCommerce is not in the picture. You don't need WooCommerce anymore. WooCommerce is only applicable if you're building on WordPress. And so Square website building platform and WordPress platform they're separate and they're competitors. So you choose one or the other. So if you choose Square to build your website, then Square is probably not going to give you the option of using any other payment processor. You're going to have to use them. And then you won't ever encounter WooCommerce with that.
For free tools to manage size and scale of photos that you referenced, is there any risk with the data or images that you're sharing in the process of resizing, rescaling?
That's a great question. And I'll say, congratulations. In the 2 years I've been giving presentations like this, you're the second person to ask. And so I find it a fascinating question. So essentially, there's websites that'll say, we'll resize your images for free. You upload an image, click a button, and we'll shrink it and give it back to you. So the question is, well, what are they doing with the image you gave them? Are they stealing it? How are they making money from their website if it's a free service? And I completely get it. I also wonder the same things. I don't know 100%, but my thought is that many of the websites that offer free conversions are filled with banners and ads. So they make money when people click on those banners and ads. And I think that for the most part, they're legitimate. They're not running away with your image and making money off of it somehow, but I can't be 100% sure. So I think there might be a little bit of risk, but I personally use them for years. I recommend them, and I don't think it's a huge risk.
Follow up on what you were saying about CRMs. What CRM would you recommend for a very small business that wants to do mailing campaigns? I'm looking at ConvertiKit and MailChimp right now, and I'm using Etsy at the moment for my selling platform, but will likely move to Shopify in the next year.
Okay. You mentioned MailChimp. So MailChimp is a really good CRM system. Its primary focus is on helping you send out emails to monetize your email list. So if you have a weekly newsletter with a sale or a promotion, MailChimp is really good for helping you send these out, to track who's opened them, to track what links in your emails they've clicked on, help you retarget people who didn't open your email with another variation of the email. MailChimp is basically the best platform, in my opinion, in the world at doing this. There's a lot of other options. There's a lot of competitors to that. Like I mentioned, there's Zoho, ZOHO, which is it has a lot more features. It's not just sending out emails. So if you're looking for maybe someone who does the email hosting for your business email and a lot of things, check out Zoho. Salesforce.com is best for big businesses, but probably 100 employees plus type of thing. There's a new one called Kajabi, which I've been using. I'm really quite impressed with. It's kajabi.com. Kajabi, Kajabi. They're similar to MailChimp in a lot of ways. They offer other cool features, so I might recommend you check those out too.
Okay, let's see if we can get through these. Let's see. What are your opinions about big commerce? Is it good e-commerce?
I don't think I understand the question. I'm not familiar with it.
It's
term
big. It's capital BIG, capital COMMERCE.
I think you're referring to a service or a company that I'm not familiar with.
What is the eBay option to Amazon?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. eBay, it doesn't come up on my list of top 5 e-commerce platforms because it's not really in the same league. eBay is kind of meant for auctioning off one-off items, but some businesses use it to sell. If you have 100 of one item, you can tell eBay that, and they'll sell until the 100 are gone. So it is a full-fledged e-commerce platform as well. It would probably be kind of like number 6 out of the top 5, which is why it doesn't really include a spot here. But for some businesses, it can work really well. It just depends on what you're trying to sell and who your target market is. So I guess if I had some more information, I might be able to help you understand if that was a good option for you or not.
I think this question is regards to when we were talking about the CEO and getting clicks. I missed the website for the Google website for traffic expectations. I think you mentioned it was some keywords. I'm thinking that's what this is regards to, maybe.
Yes. So Google has a keyword search tool, which will help you with your SEO. I don't remember the exact link or the URL, but it is called the Google keyword search tool. So if you just search for that, yeah, you'll find it. Keep in mind, they actually require you to log in with a Google account before they'll let you use the tool. So it's no longer just like freely accessible, but it is free to use once you log in. And also, if you Google just the term website SEO keyword tool, you'll find competitors to that. And some of them are, they're equally good. They don't even require you to log in. So.
Can you avoid bots clicking on your Google ads?
But that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know of the current tactics for that. But one thing I will say is that Google has a vested interest in not letting bots click on ads because that would kind of destroy their ad network. So I think Google has a really good handle on that, on making sure that doesn't happen at scale. But that's a great question. I don't have the exact answer, unfortunately, but I'll do some more research and see if I can find more information about that.
Okay, I'm going to read through this, see if this makes sense. If I start selling my products on Amazon, are there any deadline for sales? Example, if I buy 1,000 pieces of tablecloths and nobody orders anything from my account, so there's no customers, no sales, what do you do next? Can you take back your products from Amazon? Is that possible?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you're paying Amazon to keep your 1,000 tablecloths on their warehouse shelf somewhere. They don't want those to sit there forever. No. I don't know exactly the time frame you have. They have the ability to change that based on how busy they are. So probably when you create an account and start listing your products, they might tell you that, or you could contact them and ask what is the timeline like. In my experience, is something around 1 to 3 months. So if it's gone before a month, I don't think they're going to have any problem. If it stays over 3 months, then yeah, I think they're going to probably contact you and say, look, these aren't selling. Essentially pay us more money, or we need the shelf space back because there's other products to put there. Yes, you can always get your products back from Amazon as a merchant. They'll charge you a shipping fee, but they will send you unsold products and just send them to wherever you would like.
Okay, we're under 5 minutes and we still have about 7 or so questions. What about Instagram Boutique as an e-commerce site? How would that work?
That's a good question. Instagram Boutique is not one that I'm very familiar with, so I will look into that and learn a bit more about that. But unfortunately, I don't know how that would be as a selling platform.
Your opinion on name.com.
So name.com is similar to GoDaddy in the sense that it will allow you to buy a domain name, and you can register your domain name with them. I think it's fine. I mean, they're going to have the exact same selection as GoDaddy or Google Domain. So any place you can buy a domain name, they all have the same selection, essentially. So there's not an advantage of using one over the other, unless you just like the layout of the website more. It's easier to find your domain. Personally, GoDaddy is the company of choice I use to buy domains. Their prices are some of the best out there, and their customer service is also really good. So if you're having trouble setting up a website or changing some settings somewhere, you can just call somebody and get someone right away. Other companies, it's just much harder to reach a live person. So I think GoDaddy would be my recommendation for that.
Okay. Is there a practical way to avoid plugins and connect my store with my bank account?
Yeah, the first option in my payment processors was the merchant account gateway. So if your bank is big enough, like I mentioned, Chase, bigger banks will offer you the ability they'll host a checkout page for you, and then it'll just be connected to your bank account there with that bank, of course. Smaller banks or credit unions don't have the resources to do this. So if your bank is big enough, you could call them and ask, but I would probably just Google the name of your bank and something like, does it support e-commerce, and then you'll find a FAQ page and it'll tell you how to set that up if they do.
WHMCS, is this a good web hosting platform?
It doesn't come to mind. I don't think
Okay.
I have experience with that. No, there's a lot of hosting platforms out there. There's thousands. I don't think I have experience with that, but recommendations would be GoDaddy is a good hosting platform. One of the most cost effective ones is called Bluehost. So Bluehost is a bit cheaper than most others, but equally very reliable. So Bluehost, GoDaddy, and Google will also host domains if you like keeping it within the Google ecosystem.
So this is one to clarify about Shopify transaction fees. When I sell something on Square, I get charged 2.6% plus 10 cents per transaction. So the question is, does Shopify not charge for either of these? Do they charge a monthly fee instead?
Yes, that's correct. Shopify does not charge either the percentage of the transaction or that set dollar amount, but they do charge a monthly fee. Yes.
And I think we've gotten through all the questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for your questions. This was a great hour and a half. I hope it was very useful. And like was mentioned, in next month, we have another bootcamp coming up, and all of these will be on our events calendar at the virginiasbdc.org website. So if you'd like to, hear me talk again and ask me some more questions, I encourage you to come to that next month.
I agree. Thank you, Cameron. And I want to thank everyone for attending today's session. You will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. And if you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access the recorded webinars on demand, you can visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBDC resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. We hope to see you at the next session. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.